Jimmy's Jam Box. Keep jamming.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jam Box. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hello, my name is Salmon Doza. Happy to be here.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about, where you're from, what you do, give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Yeah, I'll give you the skinny of it. So I grew up in San Jose.
Oh, yeah.
As the Sharks
Yep.
giveaway. And then I moved to Eugene for college, kind of into my teens and also into that era. Just played in bands, did the jazz band thing.
Oh, okay.
Studied jazz guitar in college, but also went to basement house shows. And I think that sums up kind of a little bit of what's still happening now. And now I'm a music teacher and a gigging musician and a substitute educator.
Oh, that's
in
awesome.
Public schools. So yeah.
Well, thank you for what you do.
Yes.
What got you into music initially? What was the starting point?
Definitely seeing my dad do it. He played saxophone in salsa bands, and there's just instruments around the house. And, I saw him play sax and flute, and, there's piano, guitar. And so I remember having this Casio keyboard in the house and just painstakingly, doing the little playback songs and
Yep.
trying to learn them by ear. So a lot of that foundation is just learning songs by ear. And
Okay.
then eventually parents being sick of hearing that and just being let's get you some real piano lessons and stuff. So
Fair. So that was the main instrument you started on once you got into it?
yeah, I took 2 years of saxophone, and then I think I was always I don't know if this is related, but I was a picky eater as a kid, and I was very sensitive to sound, touch.
Oh,
And,
interesting.
I still am in some ways, but something about the reeds and the spit and blowing saxophone was just really gross to me, and I
That's fair.
think that's ultimately what led me astray from it. And then piano and guitar kind of started formally around the same time
Gotcha.
for me. But yeah.
Gotcha. And was your family musical growing up? Was that a big part of it, or did you
Yeah.
just stumble upon it?
I'd say mostly my dad,
Okay.
my dad's side for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is he a guitar player as well? Or is
Yeah,
he an instrumentalist?
He's he calls himself amateur, and I think I think he's great, and he's been such a positive force for that too, and just seeing him do his thing in the salsa bands, and when I was in middle school, I went to a really small K through 8 type school, and basically most of the funding was going towards a good bilingual education for the duration of that school. So there was no lockers, there's no sports, there was no music. So basically
Gotcha.
him and a couple of the other parents started this music group in the school called
Oh,
the
cool.
Estudiantina, and we would learn Spanish folk songs. We would
Wow, that's really cool.
dress in capes and these wild outfits and parade around, play, I don't know, a farmer's market, or play the Day of the Dead kind of situation. So
Yeah. Well, just getting out and doing it though.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
definitely. And that was the reason for me to, learn the first couple chords on guitar, because there's very simple, folk songs. And then
Yeah.
the moment I got an electric, it was over. And I was
yeah.
already
then
on
you
to the
found out
rocks.
about pedals and
Exactly.
alternate tunings.
Oh, yep. It's over.
Hell yeah.
So that's what I would consider the foundation of
No.
it all. And then the rest is kind of history.
No, that's perfect. And we're definitely going to dive into a little more of the current stuff soon.
Cool.
But we have a couple more foundation questions.
Yes.
And this next one is definitely a crowd favorite. It's one we ask early. It's one we ask often.
Awesome.
What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
I remember seeing this on a couple of your episodes, and I was I don't know how to answer that, but I remember one of the first ones I was gifted, or I think it was Avril Lavigne's.
Okay.
What was
yep.
it called?
Oh,
the
man.
classic one with the Skater Boy on it.
Yeah, I don't
Let Go
remember.
or something.
Yeah.
I'm probably biffing it, but I also, not the first one that I bought with my own money, but the first one I remember getting a library fee about was Demon Days by Gorillaz.
Yo, I
It's such a classic.
love that album. Actually,
It's-
coincidentally enough, the guest that was here yesterday, the episode that came out earlier, the artist that she would like want to work with was Noodle.
Right on.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was just like, that's such a neat answer. But no, Demon Days is one of my all-time favorite albums. I actually have it on. It's in that little stack.
You got it
right
on
there.
wax.
Yeah.
Such a classic.
Have to. But
Just
that's like
everything between like rock and hip hop and like electronic. It just like it's such a world to like
Yeah.
live in, I think. And I think it was just like I saw it. I thought it looked cool. I didn't really think much of it. Got the library overdraft fee or whatever. Then my dad was like, "Oh, you lost it, so like we got to go buy another copy." And all of a sudden, like the library fee had passed. I think they had like not given a shit about it anymore.
Yep.
And then at a certain point, they were like, I just had 2 copies of Demon Days in my house. And
oops.
yep, oops.
Oh no. And one
What
was
a-
a fresh copy too.
Yeah.
Well, hell yeah. Hey, that's solid early album.
Yeah, definitely.
And then what was one of the first like live shows you ever went to? That was like one you wanted to go to.
Yeah, honestly, a Coldplay concert.
Okay.
And it was when they were doing the Viva La Vida tour, and they put
Uh,
on such a sick show at Shoreline Amphitheater, and I went with one of my best childhood friends. and
shout
it
out
was just-
Shoreline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that was my taste at the time, and those first 4 records, I still look back on them fondly. I think there's good material in there. It's not like what I listen to actively now, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not like gonna try to be a cool guy here and be like, yeah, I listen to like this so and so band just to like prove a point. It's
No,
like,
I get you. I mean,
it's Coldplay.
it was what it was for the time.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like I think that, enough people liked them.
No doubt.
Enough people that a lot of people. That was a lot of people.
Yeah.
They did everything. They didn't do a Super Bowl, did they?
I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
I wouldn't either. I don't think that they did.
Mm-hmm.
I saw them on all the late night things though, like Jimmy Kimmel and whatnot, like
Mm-hmm.
all of that stuff. Actually, maybe not. Was it Jimmy Kimmel at the time? I don't know. I was young. I was young once.
Yes.
All right, let's keep diving into this though. And now
Yeah.
we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna focus on you as the artist. We're gonna look at
Cool.
more of the current, and let's get the easy one out of the way.
Yeah.
How did you pick your musical name?
Well, it was just a play on my name, like Sam Mendoza. Put the first couple bits of the last name in it, and it becomes Salmon, and then like Doza as a separate word. It just looked cool to
It
me.
does.
And it's
It looks cool and it's like easy to remember,
yeah.
but like it doesn't sound like the thing it came from per se. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like once you hear you say it, you're like, oh yeah, that's obviously.
But it's funny, like, and like friends who have gotten used to that moniker, they'll refer to me as like, yeah, just Salmon, or like they'll be like Salmon. Like,
Yeah.
it's really funny and endearing.
Salmon's
lot of
such an
ways.
interesting, like, because when you have music names long enough, it becomes like your nickname almost.
Yeah.
And Salmon would be such an interesting twist from like fish or something like that. Like
definitely.
it's like a name where you hear it and you're like, if it was any other word, it would feel like it was like a term of endearment. But salmon just, I said it with the L.
Yeah.
Salmon just feels comfortable. It doesn't feel that way at all.
Yeah.
So it's like it's very like it's a very wholesome feel,
Mhm.
and it attaches well to your music. I was listening to some of it earlier,
Cool.
and it just it's clear that you play your instruments well. You know what I mean? Like it's very obvious. Like there's technique in it, but it doesn't feel oversaturated in that, which is really nice.
Thank you.
There's a good like balance of what feels like not like lightheartedness per se, but like a comfort. You sit into the music well, it feels like, and it presents that way.
Yeah.
So that was at least from what I heard of your newest EP, which I apologize. We're Friends Now. That was called.
Good. My friend is here.
My friend is here. I knew it was something.
You got
Friends would say.
you got the sentiment though.
Yeah. But no, it while I was listening to the whole thing, it had a really, for not being a big collection of work, it had a really cool direction from
Thank
start
you.
to finish. So
Yeah, I wanted some cohesiveness to it, and it's definitely different from stuff I've put out in the past. A lot of my background in terms of like making art and playing shows and that sort of thing has been in
Yeah.
the context of collaborative band efforts and like really like the loud electric rock band kind of format. And so while that is still something that's very exciting to me, I think the acoustic avenue has been something I've really wanted to explore. And like there is a side to my song library that I feel deserve to be like, okay, recorded and mastered and treated in a way that would like, really dig into that world and kind of world build within itself, even though it is a small world of, just 6 songs or so.
I mean, it definitely doesn't feel like 6 songs. Like like I said, there's first of all, it was interesting to me that you had some shorter songs in there. Because again, they just had this, weight doesn't feel like the right word, but there's like a density in each of them.
Yeah.
Which doesn't feel complicated or convoluted. That's the word I'm looking for. It doesn't feel convoluted. Everything is presented well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take us through your writing process. And like specifically, I want to focus on in the very beginning when you get inspired to write. What are like some of the key things you do every time? What's something that like helps you kind of like, what are the building blocks for music when it comes to like putting something together? And then what decides a song is ready to release?
Cool. Great question. So I think, so since the pandemic, I've been getting into this idea of speed writing, which initially was this thing to like kind of be a vessel for like all this energy of like, okay, there's no gigs, there's no performances happening. So let me like make a spectacle of myself on Instagram Live.
Okay.
And pretty much the only parameter I would set for myself initially was like, let's just roll it for an hour and see what I come up with. And for the second EP that I made, a lot of those songs were kind of from those batches of songs that I would just work on and polish more later. So I've been really getting into this idea of like, okay, what sections can be copied and pasted, right? You get a chorus, a hook, easy. If you write the hook first, that's, 1 or 2 more down the line that you're not having to think about.
Yeah.
I just have these like hacks that I've kind of like learned over time that like
you have a process.
Verses,
you have a process.
Verses, you can like retain the same melody. You just got to change the words. So that's maybe a little bit more you have to think about. But just this idea of getting an idea out quickly. And then what's fun about the Instagram format is like you have people in and out of the chat, just and so I use it as a platform to get ideas from like friends too. And someone would be like, no, use this word, no, use this chord. So you get people from like
sharing
both the lyrical world and also from the jazz world too that are like thinking about those chords and those changes and that sort of thing. So
it's also a great way to, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're all good. Go for it.
It's like a cool way to like present people your music without presenting any music.
Exactly.
Like, because people get to hear you playing, which is ultimately, like it's a matter of opinion. But ultimately, when you're playing music, that is your truest form of music. Like in the moments where you're making it is where all your rawest ideas come out. So that is the truest essence of you before it reaches all the speed bumps along the way at the end of the process.
Yeah.
So like,
I would say so.
For people to get to hear that, it's almost more real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they get to see process. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, the way you get to product is that exactly. And you see the messiness and the bumps and like the trying a section over and over again. So that's what all exists in that live format. But to get even more specific with this recent EP, I think the way those songs came out, they were a little more like long and drawn out. Like those weren't like the quickest writes for me.
Yeah.
For me, those were like a little bit of the slower burns. But in terms of my guitar approach for that, so I've been playing guitar maybe a little over 15 years at this point, and so I come from a mix of jazz and rock and kind of folk or, different like genre backgrounds.
Those all kind of intersect
exactly
along the way. I think once you get into guitar enough, you're doing all of it.
Exactly.
You're going to interact with all of that.
So the main thing that I took to this record was this idea of 3 guitars, you have one center, like the main guitar part, in your ears. You're an audio guy. I don't have to tell you twice. And one guitar pan right, one guitar pan left, at least how I was demoing them at home initially, and kind of utilizing the whole range of the guitar. So say, for example, I'm playing in the C key in the middle of the guitar, then I would have like the left guitar be more of the bassy low region, kind of pluck whatever, the G or the A key. And I would find the same chords that existed in that region, do a low version, do a high version, so that I'm utilizing texture and range all across the guitar in a minimum of 3 guitars. And then same thing with the voices. I wouldn't use more than 2 harmonies over the main vocal part. And, classic, just like indie emo folk style and like, like the Elliott Smith, like double tracking and that whole technique. So just to get a very closeness.
I think when you're going the route of simplicity in instrument presentation, it's good to go for layers. But I appreciate that you took the more minimal approach, I guess would be the best way to say it.
It does feel more minimal.
Yeah,
for sure.
because it lets the music breathe a little bit. Like that was, I mean, for when we were doing the music format on the show, I was always a big proprietor of it. It's live. Like it's whatever you're putting into the microphone is what's coming out.
Yeah.
And I think that we, as especially like a today's society where everything's so fast, everything's so immediate, and that's not to echo chamber the common rhetoric of today.
No, totally.
But like, because everything is so quick, I think that sometimes we focus so much on the immediate turn. Like we can turn out so many things. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we? Like we can make one song, or in that same amount of time, we can make 4.
Yeah.
But like when you get the time to sit with the music, I think that you learn a lot about your own music in ways that you don't when you're just going through certain motions. And that's not even to like compare to yours. Like I really appreciate that, like that you did that during that time because of what you got out of it. And then subsequently you took an opposite or a different approach for the EP.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, would you say that you gained something from both of them in different ways?
100%. And I think the slower burn songs kind of, for me recently, have ended up in that world of the quiet acoustic guitar ensemble vibe. Whereas I feel like some of the quicker songs end up with the rock band format, like the more of like the power pop kind of world that
would you say it's more attention grabbing? And that's why it's able to like, you're like, put those on top, because in the short span
hooky,
you're like that.
Yeah.
Whereas when you sit with it, you get to kind of like, you get to strip away some of the flashy things for the weight.
Totally.
I
would say so.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So it's been fun. Yeah, it's been fun exploring, deepening my love for songwriting and recording throughout these past couple of years, and like, not loving performing any less, but I think realizing like, like I think I put all my chips on performing like pre-pandemic, and I think I just wanted to gig. I was just hungry all the time, and now I'm like I'm like a little more sleepy. Like I'm a little more tired, and I think I want to like just tuck in and write songs more. I think, and just
That's fair.
having a great time doing that.
Oh yeah,
really.
There was a second part to that question that we never exactly touched on.
Oh yeah,
I want to circle back. What decides the song is ready to release?
Cool.
At least for you, like
a lot of toil, a lot of deliberation. I had a
final mix A, B, Q, R, Z.
I had an incredible team behind this record. I did the recording, all the initial tracking, recording, mixing with Harlan Silverman. He moved up from LA a couple years back, and he's marvelous. He's been in like the industry, like just doing things for a really long time. Great cellist and multi-instrumentalist. Like you'll catch him shredding on guitar, but you also catch him just playing like a sweet flute in like the forest. Like he's just like, he makes meditation music. He's just like such a homie. And he, just was very, very generous to work on the record. I
love that.
With me. And then Miguel Martinez, who works through a studio called Extension 606. They're right above like kind of like this downtown area. And then like literally like the 606, the room, the floor. And
very on the nose.
Yeah, and Miguel mastered it to tape. We did the sequencing together in the same room, and he, we would just like make eye contact, just be like, should we drop it off here? No, I think it needs like 0.5 more seconds. And so the reason the album flows the way it does is because, we spent that time together, as opposed to like interfacing a million emails being like,
oh man,
like, and I'm happy to like I think the more I've done the solo artist thing, the more I've been like a little more picky, a little more choosy, like not just being like, it's okay, like I'll settle for that. It's like, no, I really just want it to sound the way I want it to. And I think,
I think as we progress as musicians, as we grow, we become more knowledgeable of what, like, if A, then B. Like if you do this, then that. And as you grow and you gain more knowledge, you're able to communicate those things better. So you end up being able to communicate with people who do things better because they can operate at a higher volume.
Definitely.
So I think once you've done it long enough, it's only appropriate because you're able to communicate. Like Tyler, the Creator, was talking about, he was working, I forget who he was working with. I apologize, internet.
Yeah.
But he was working with some big, famous, like huge vocalist. And the guy just kept asking him what was happening next. And he's like, what do you mean what's happening next? You're you. Like, and he's like, no, I'm me. And your job is to tell me what to do to get you what you want. Like this is your music.
Yeah.
I am the vessel to create this part
Yeah.
for you.
Stepping into
Tell me what you
producer role
want.
as opposed to
Yeah.
artist role, right?
Yeah. And it's just, it's crazy when you get to that point where it's like, there are some people that are just so talented. It's like, no, I don't have to think of what I need to do. You just tell me and I do it.
Yeah.
Like that there's something special.
That's, yeah, totally. And that's just a knowing thyself kind of
Yeah,
moment,
exactly.
but also just like just the hours and the toil you've spent on your own craft, I think. And that's special for sure.
Yeah.
And I would love, I think a goal that I feel I have, because I love having an awesome team like
Mhm.
that. And I think part of why I tend to be like, okay, I want to get it ready for the studio, and as opposed to trying to DIY it, is because I trust that someone can do that part a little better. And I'm
yeah.
willing to like go through the process of like budgeting and saving money so that I
Yeah.
can do something like that. Subsequently, like, and like eventually down the line, I want to get to the point where I feel that confidence and I can foster that confidence in myself to like put out a piece of work that I've been for every step of the way. And like,
Yeah.
just even if it's one body of work, I want to record, mix, and master in my space, basically, and just do that. But yeah, I think having both is fun.
Definitely. There's something to knowing the process.
Mhm.
Like I'm pretty sure I've said this on the show before, so it's a callback statement. But I always like to use the example of there are two types of people in the world. Essentially, there are people with oil in their blood and gasoline in their blood. There are people who like to work on stuff. People like to do stuff.
Mhm.
But they both should have an understanding of how the other one works.
Yeah.
Because then it's easy to, like I said, communicate like earlier, but then there's little things you can do along the way to be more prepared.
Interesting.
And that's, I guess I think that's really what comes from professionalism. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like being prepared isn't like, oh, I know 1,000 chords. And you're able to look at a situation and to know how you can make it happen more efficiently,
Mhm.
how you can make it more prominent.
Totally.
So like, that if you play a certain way, it'll have a certain outcome. But in this recorded instance, that isn't going to yield the best outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like as a musician and knowing different genres or styles, it's like, yeah, you have a toolkit. You're not gonna fit the circle in the square peg. You're not
Exactly.
You're not gonna bust out the jazz riffs at the rock gig or the bluegrass.
I mean, if the
riffs
circle's
at,
big
you know.
enough, you can fit the square
Sure.
one. But
And
not
not
it's
that-
knowing that. Like that's where the professional is the preparedness. You can see a
Exactly.
situation and come up with a solution.
Mhm.
You don't already have the answer. You're able to figure it out.
Mhm.
And that I think, that just kind of spans across a lot of things, but definitely in music.
And yeah, context is everything. I think the role of artist is one thing, and the role of sideman, which I definitely occupy a lot of in bands and friends,
Yeah,
groups
same.
around the city. Like, yeah, that rings very true. I think for that too.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, we've ran away on this topic for quite a while.
All good.
Let's get back to the format. For this next one, I know you've been in a bunch of bands, but let's
Mhm.
try and focus maybe on just solo work for now.
Sure.
If you had to show somebody one song, you could only, like, if someone was like, hey, show me your like big something, like you can pick whoever you want, but like you could only show people one song of yours. Which one would you show them?
Great question. I think I'd probably go with Mother of One, which is the first single that came out with this EP, My Friend Is Here. I just feel very like, it's just there's a certain warmth to it. I feel like I just feel it feels like a good landmark for like my singing voice and like where I've ended up in guitar composition stuff. Like it feels good to play still, and it
Yep.
feels like it was a good way to kind of take this like anecdotal moment that was like truly just like just a gnarly morning, a gnarly day, and to have months pass by and be like, that instance would go well on these chords, and
Yeah.
hence the slow burn of the process of like these chords had been ready for like months, and then okay, here's the story, and
Yep.
so yeah, I think that probably feels indicative to where I'm at right now
I like that.
artistically. Yeah.
I really appreciate how observational of your music you are. Like it's because bunch of people come through here and they all like how people see their music is a big part of the answers, even if they
Mhm.
don't realize it. But the way you talk about your music doesn't feel like you're talking about like a product or a commodity. It feels like you're talking about like art. It feels like you're talking about something that like, like like you sat there and you made it. It wasn't like, some people are like, yeah, I did this and like it hit these numbers or it did these things. When you talk about your music, you have this like it's not like a glow, like you're not like, but you talk about it almost like lightheartedly, like it's kind of like it's just like a friend who's been there for a little while, and that's that's refreshing. It's not a question, it's just an observation. I wanted to point that out.
Cool.
But we'll get back into it again.
Great.
And we're gonna kind of spice things up here. And this one include everything you've ever done musically, as far as like bands and stuff is concerned, but out of all the shows you've ever performed, do you have a most favorite or a most wild, or if you have a story for each one, both?
Goodness gracious. Yeah, the Eugene house show scene was rowdy.
That's all you had to say. Yep.
Yeah. But I can definitely think of some moments where certain fire codes were not
allegedly
probably not the safest. But no, there's definitely like, oh gosh, some very great shows at the Lorax Manor, which one is one of the co-ops there. And I remember it was after we had played the Willamette Valley Music Festival on campus at U of O, and this electronic artist Mr. Carmack was also there, and so we were just like, it was like Starfucker 2 was there. It was like a wild.
What was this show? My god!
It was like the campus music festival, and then I think our bassist Aiden was like, just reached out to Mr. Carmack's Instagram, was like, "Yo, come to the Lorax."
Oh my god!
And so we played a wild.
Mr. Carmack, if you want to be on the show,
it's been so many years, and then so basically we played that festival set. Hit up Mr. Carmack, be like, "Yo, this is where we'll be." So he pulled up to the Lorax, and we handed him a bass, and we just jammed for a bit too.
Hell yeah!
Between our set, and had friends rap and had friends bring their horns. It was it was a beautiful time.
That's incredible.
Rowdy. My dad was there too.
Oh.
It was
I don't know what it is about that particular fact, but whenever like the dads show up to a gig, especially if it ends up being like a rowdy gig, you're just like, yeah.
It's sick.
Yeah. Like there's like I don't know what it's equivocal to, but there's something specific about that instance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we've got one last question for the artist focus portion.
Great.
And this, I mean, we've already kind of dived into this so much. I'm curious to see what the direct answer is.
Great.
But out of everything you do for the process of making music, for all of what it is, what is it about music that matters the most? What is it that like keeps you going, and not the things that come back because of it, but when you're in the thick of it, when you're in the process, when you're in those like, I should be hating this moments, what are the things that just make it to where you just want to keep doing it all the time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think music, I know you said you were looking for like a very direct answer. I'm realizing all the purposes that music serves in people's lives. Like for some people, it's like worship or a spiritual thing. For some people, it's like to get them through the slog of the day, right? They need something to like put on and not think, or for some people, it's a very intellectual pursuit. Like I'm realizing all these purposes. And for me, it's been all of those things, I think. And I think really just getting to play with your homies and just getting to like, whether it is through practice or through performance, I think just that feeling of like locking in and really like, okay, we're like just that being in the moment feeling is like really special. And I think songwriting really feels like the most special thing these days. And I think really just sitting with an idea, and it's a puzzle. It's a cool little puzzle for the brain, but it can be this really beautiful mode for expression. It isn't always. I think for me recently, it's been more of a practice. But when it is opportune to be like, okay, here's something that's pressing in my heart or my mind, and it needs to be on the canvas, then it does. But yeah, it's been more of a practice recently, and that's been nice to show up to.
Yeah. It sounds like music has always been very present in your life.
Yeah.
And that's
definitely
cool. It's like a little bit family, a little bit friends, a little bit personal. Like and I mean, like you said it best, like it's played all these roles.
Mhm.
And so it's cool that as you've done all the things, it gets to exist in between and around all of them.
Mhm.
So that was a great answer.
Cool.
All right, now let's go ahead and move on to some hypothetical questions.
Amazing.
And these ones are fun. So sky's the limit. There
Great.
are no wrong answers.
Awesome.
And the first one, if you could work with any one artist who's currently alive,
Ooh, currently
and if it's a
alive.
band, you have to pick a member of the band, who would you pick and how would you want to work with them?
So I would, okay. The reason I kind of got into that guitar ensemble world is like really getting into Adrienne Lenker from Big Thief.
Mhm.
Her record songs that she put out made me think like I thought when I saw her live that she would be touring with more guitarists because those flutters and twinkles that you hear in like the left and right guitar,
Yeah.
you know, the headphones or whatever. I was like, oh, she's gonna be touring with more guitarists, and it was like, no, it was just her. So I would love to be a collaborator with her in a songwriting sense, but I would love
Yeah.
to be like touring with her as the
Okay.
twinkly. Like I would love to be like her auxiliary
Let me
guitarist.
do your twinkles.
Yeah, let me be the textured while you do your thing and be beautiful and sing and whatever. But
That's
Yeah.
that's an interesting take on it.
yeah,
I like that.
I'm
I
like,
like that.
I'm like here to insert myself in
Yeah.
a way that
Let me
she's probably
enhance
not
your
even thinking
music.
about. No,
No, but that's cool though.
but if it was ever a summoning or an opportunity, I'd be like pretty stoked.
Well, everybody, you know what to do. At in the comments. All right, and then subsequently, who's
Yeah.
a local artist that you're aware of, but you haven't gotten to interact with yet, but you would like to?
Ooh, great question. Great question. Trying to think. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Fair enough.
I think the past 3 years have been really awesome, and I think I'm in a place now where I'm like, oh, I'm really meeting the people I'm supposed to, and
You
I'm
know-
really grateful for that feeling. So there's not like a huge urge, but I know that there's probably this is gonna be over, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna drive home and be like, damn, I could have name dropped that.
You can totally
Beautiful
put
person.
you can put their at in the comments when you think of it.
Cool.
Yeah, so everybody look for that. Just check every day until it happens. Make sure to at him if it doesn't. No, I'm kidding. All right, and then if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about power, crowd access, building stability, the lineup would be taken care of. It was going to be the best show ever, guaranteed.
Wow,
Where would it be?
dang. What's the one in New York?
Oh, Madison
One.
Square Garden?
No, not the outdoor one, but like what's like the opera house, like the place where the symphony plays. It's
Oh.
like, oh.
Oh my God.
Actually, no, Hollywood Bowl would be pretty sick. I just
Okay.
like that it's like round, there's like a orbiness to it all.
Have you seen the new like Las Vegas like mega sphere?
I've been seeing the memes about like people and who,
Yeah.
like who would you put there, and then it'll be some like goofy video of
Yeah.
somebody. But yes,
Man,
it looks wild.
I think I was watching whose story was I watching? I think it was Sophie Tucker's.
Hmm.
Which shout out Sophie Tucker if y'all want to be on the show. And they were like in it, you know what I mean? They were there at it, and it was just like at certain points my head like couldn't process like everything the camera was showing you because it was huge. It like well past like back past your head.
Whoa.
And like YouTube was like this big in the video. So they were like up. And so it just I can't imagine what that would be like in
That'd
like real
be-
life. It'd be enormous.
I don't know what I would focus on as the perform. Like
I think
I'd
at
just
a
be
certain-
so overstimulated, and the fact that it's indoors too, would be
Yeah.
so insane.
Yeah.
Be wild.
Oh, it'd have to be so loud.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure it's well controlled like IMAX and stuff like that. But like it would have to be so loud. That would be insane. I still want to go and do it once.
Yeah.
All right. And then to wrap it up, if you had to pick a completely different genre than any music you've ever performed ever,
Whoa.
and if you've done like a cross genre song, both of them are off the table. And you can't pick country music or electronic music?
No,
Too many
what?
people defaulted to that one. We had to make it more difficult.
Dang.
What would you pick? And you would be equally as proficient as you are in your current main genre.
So electronic music would include like house music and
Yeah,
stuff too.
yeah. It's still got to be like dominantly instrument based.
Dominantly instrument bass. Cool. I think I would dive deep into the salsa world, probably like
Okay.
Latin music world as probably like a percussionist. I think that would be really sick.
Okay.
Yeah, just get really good at timbales and like cowbell and like
I
just
love Latin percussion.
just rip. Yeah,
Yeah.
just be in that world. Or maybe a tie with that would be like, I don't know, like get good at some woodwind, like I think oboe and like clarinet are really beautiful, and
Oh.
like be a part of like some symphonic band or wind ensemble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done paid orchestra gigs before as like, guitar and bassist.
Yeah.
I was in Rent last
Oh,
summer. I was
exciting.
in the pit for that, and but as like a more traditional pit kind of member
Yeah.
for like a ballet or something. I think that'd be really, yeah.
That
I
would-
just thought of that now, but
Yeah, well-
I think that'd be cool.
There you go. Hey, I mean, now it's achievable. Achievable-ish.
with more 10,000 hours. Let's
True.
go.
I think once you've mastered a couple instruments, that scales down.
Mhm.
I think I think some of those hours roll over. They're rollover
Right.
hours.
At least like the music theory and like music understanding and fundamentals, like rhythm, like I'm sure transfers over to all this stuff, but like
So it's just
yeah,
muscle memory. at a certain
technique
point.
and embouchure and
Oh, well, I don't.
Woo.
That's a big word.
yeah.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping this up.
Great.
Can you tell us what you have coming up? Say like end of October and onwards.
End of October and onwards. Well, I've got a couple solo gigs. So next Monday, I'm playing Mississippi Pizza, the Atlantis Lounge, as a part of my roommate and friends in the bluegrass scene. They have a band called Dadweed, so they'll do a set. We'll do a set together. They'll kind of back my songs.
Oh, perfect.
I'll do a house show the day after that on Tuesday at a spot called Porch Couch.
Nice.
And then I'll be playing with my band, like the rock side of things, Lollipop Shop on October 19th. So
exciting.
other than that, couple side man moments, I'll be playing October 13th with Katie and the Knoll Sets. I'll be playing drums for that.
Nice.
I don't want to biff the date here, but
you could definitely pull out your phone for this.
my friend Maria DeHart, who has renamed their band to Myriads,
Nice, good name.
Mississippi Studios on October 26th. So
Nice.
lots of exciting stuff as the artist, as the sideman.
Hell yeah.
So
Do you have any new music coming out in the near future?
I'm just gonna sit on this release. It feels
Fair.
good. I'm in no rush anytime
Fair.
soon, but I have been in the studio recently for more of the rock stuff and
Cool.
that pending for the summer months. This recent one was for the cold months.
Gotcha.
For the gloom
Your winter
Pacific
release.
Northwest. Yeah, so
Love it.
I'm gonna hopefully maybe a spring forward or a summer release for this
Perfect.
next stuff.
Hell yeah. All right. And then for this next one, go ahead and look straight at the camera and tell people how they can find you. Give you all the ats and plugs and things like that.
You can find me on my Instagram at salmon_Doza DOZA. You can find my music under the same moniker on Spotify, on Bandcamp, YouTube, all that stuff. So thanks for listening.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
Yeah. For the record, we had, Harlan Silverman, Miguel Martinez, Santiago La Rochelle for the artwork. Gosh, yeah. So many people that would constitute an episode of its own. But
Fair.
shout out the Portland and Eugene music scenes, and just thank you for holding me and letting me be a part of you.
Hell yeah.
So,
Hell yeah. All right. Now we've got one last question to go. But before
Great.
we do that, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
okay.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, the final question. What is your guilty pleasure song?
Ooh, guilty pleasure song. Well, I told you my first concert was Coldplay, and so I'm already
True.
embracing whatever people may think is cringe. So, I love Return of the Mac.
Okay.
I could listen to that song on repeat 10 times in a row. It's gotten me through some of my worst days.
Yeah.
Return of the Mac by Mark Morrison.
Love that. I love that.
It's such a good song.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go ahead and get up on out of here. Thank you so much
Right.
for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Jimmy.
Yeah,
This
I
was
really
fun.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
This has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jam Box. I'm Jimmy,
And I'm Salmon Doza.
and we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap. This is not a podcast. This is a show. Keep jamming.